So we have Narasimhan Elangovan, partner at Ken & Co, join us today for the show.
It's been quite a journey. I would say probably about nearing 15 years.
What conviction did you have back in those times that cloud will be the future?
I was able to bring in an accounting anywhere, anytime.
So I think it's time we talk about ChatGPT as well. Can we try it now and see it live how it works?
We have safeguards in place, but this is not intended to give your advice. ChatGPT is your free intern.
Now it's time that we move to rapid fire questions. So are you
Attending
ready?
a Viva after a long time.
One thing you don't like the most about what you get to do as a CA.
Sometimes the job becomes monotonous.
So it's time we move to our next segment. Have you ever?
I think I've done
Okay.
many times.
Do you mind sharing what that is?
No, that is because it's on record.
Welcome to Coffee with CA, a show where engaging conversations and delightful coffee moments intertwine as we bring in esteemed CAs from across the nation. Prepare to join us as we explore the intricate ways in which technology has become inevitable. In this episode, we are joined by a tech enthusiast who has unwavering passion for AI, ML, data analytics, and more. He has taken many accounting conferences circuit by storm with his deliberations as well. So we have Narasimhan Elangovan, partner at Ken & Co, join us today for the show.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much for taking your time out and joining us today here
It's a
in
pleasure.
Chennai.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
What is the fascinating story behind you becoming a chartered accountant? Can you share your experiences, the milestones you have achieved, the challenges you have faced, and how did you become a renowned CA that you are today?
First of all, thank you so much for inviting. It's been quite a journey. I would say probably about nearing 15 years since I started. I come from a family of chartered accountants, so it was easier that I had to. My father was a chartered accountant, and by the time I was in my 8th and 9th, my sister already chose her CA course. So I was more or less inclined. I knew how CAs would work, but I said, okay, let's give it a try, and that's how it started. Finished my 12th grade, immediately went into the CA coaching, parallelly articleship, and I had evening college. So it's a combination of all the three, but we had our own share of fun. 3.5 years of difficult or hard work with a lot of masti in between and enjoyment. I had some good mentors, very good set of people whom I could reach out.
This is a very contrast opinion to CAs, mostly involved in examinations and
Correct. So it's technically many people, the moment you say CA, it's all about academics, books and all of those. But I think we all have our share of fun, which we do, right? Okay. Going to have our, office hangouts, or it could be, the post-tax season filings, chilled out sessions.
You were one of the early voice about technology, and I've seen many of your conferences videos where you go out there and meet the CA community and take the entire audience by storm talking about technology.
Correct.
What conviction did you have back in those times that cloud will be the future?
See, for me, what I sensed at that point of time, if I look back today, right, I just wanted to take a road not taken. Everybody was into taxation, everybody was into the practice of accounting and auditing. I said, why not take a chance with technology? And that was the first trigger. And with that background, I started exploring technology so that I first understand technology. And then I realized there's a lot of potential. Why don't I use technology for my own office? Why don't I use it for the betterment? Why can't I bring in new things? And that's when the entire domain of cloud was, a big buzzword. So why not use cloud, right? Why not use cloud-based accounting? Because we have seen a desktop-based accounting for fairly, at least 30-40 years, right? So when innovation comes in, I think we need to catch the bus. Otherwise, you will be left behind, right? So I thought that's the right time. And I started exploring first for me, hands-on, to see it. Then I said, okay, this is something very exciting, interesting.
When you migrated from desktop accounting to cloud accounting, what were the immediate benefits you saw? And why can't you ever go back to the old way or traditional way of accounting? And what are people missing out by not being on cloud?
Interesting question. So the big benefit which I saw when I moved into the cloud was accessibility. That could be not just for me, it could be for my office, it could be for my clients. So I was able to bring in an accounting anywhere, anytime. That was the massive shift. Typically, historically, if I say an accountant brings in a balance sheet or a P&L, mostly it happens when? It happens towards the fag end of filing season, right? And most of the time, until then, I'm actually in the dark. I'm not even aware of, how my books are actually there. So when I brought in this, I thought that, it made a lot of sense that I am updating people at the right time. And I need not be at office every time to get access to it. I could, through a simple mobile app, see what the status is, right? If I see these advantages, going back to desktop accounting, I find little challenging because I'm not seeing this sort of a benefits because it's fixed into my system there. So either move into this where I have ready accessibility, I'm able to use it everywhere. So I think it makes a lot of sense that way. I may probably think twice if I have to go back, unless there's a strong use case because of some XYZ reasons. But I find the cloud accounting fancy and good enough.
And what are people missing out by not being on cloud?
By not being on cloud, see what happens in these cloud applications is there is always a new deployment which comes in and which is quite fancy and you have to experiment. I'll give you a simple example, a concept like a connected banking. Now the whole purpose of banking is to ensure that a banking is a separate transaction today, accounting is a separate transaction. Now can I merge both of them? The answer is yes, right? Or forget about that, even if I have to pass entries today, what if I can sort of link my bank statement, at least one trigger is complete. So what is the next step? I just have to go and classify it. And thanks to the way I can classify, I can define a rule. For example, there is a forex transaction which occurs, and I know for every forex transaction there's a bank charges. If it has this nomenclature, go ahead and book it as bank charges. So I can set those rules. So my accounting becomes more and more easier. And the way I look forward, probably 5 to 10 years down the lane, accounting will become more of data entry capturing will become completely automated. So what is our role as accountant then? Then we'll have to only focus on number crunching, or rather a machine might do the number crunching, we have to do the interpretation. So I think if you're forward looking, if you are, you want to see that, you want to go ahead, I think moving into the cloud is definitely the way ahead.
And do you see the number of employees, in the future reducing in a CA firm because everything is getting automated? The amount of manual work is entirely reduced, and then number of employees, I think, what is your thought on how it is going to reduce?
From a future of a CA firm or the number of employees getting reduced, I think the way in which this game is going to change is lesser the people, but they're going to do more volume of work. And how are they going to do more volume of work? It is coupled with technology. So if I had 3 clients which was serviced by, let's say, 2 employees, with these sort of technologies, automation coming into picture, I can have 5 clients and probably the same 2 employees can serve. Or maybe, reverse, 1 employee can probably do that. So I would probably see the per man efficiency significantly increasing, and that is a big advantage. Because the future, the way at which technology is evolving, whether it's an accounting profession or any profession, right? You will require, some of these jobs are going to get automated. So what would you do with 5 people, over there? And also bear in mind, the client realizes that technology is coming in and he is expecting you to lower the set of fees. So on one side, you're lowering the fees, right? Your revenue or whatever you're going to earn is coming down. On the other side, it makes sense for you to invest in technology, a cloud-based accounting or an automation suite, etc. And thereby, even one person, he can make it much more productive. And some could probably see it as, is this going to be end of the extent of the accountant from a traditional perspective? If you do from a traditional perspective, I would say yes. Because even if you pick up the World Economic Forum, their 2023 Future of Jobs report just came back about a month back, May 23. They speak about all these work of data entry is slowly going to disappear. And that is where I see a gradual change.
Being on cloud gives us one leverage, right, where we can expand globally with multiple, global compliances being already there, fed into the software. How does that help a CA expand his reach and also acquire more clients across the globe?
Very pertinent question, because today, the way businesses are run is they want to focus, today is the era of core specialization. And I am a businessman, I want to focus only on my business. I want to focus on operations because that's my skill. But today what happens, many a times he or she has a constraint, he's not able to decide his working capital position. He's not able to decide what his, the assets liability position is. Tomorrow will he be eligible for a loan for various reasons. Have I done my collection from my receivables, all of those. So the way this is going to happen is, with these sort of technologies, focus on your business where there could be a guy who could work anywhere in the world, be your virtual CFO and take care of your accounting. Which means we become a global service hub, offer these services to anywhere. The interesting statistics which I happen to read is that AICPA, the members are saying that we are now finding an acute shortage of CPA members, and we are not able to do the required accounting or the required data entry skill set. Now this is all going to get outsourced, and which better market than India, because we understand the transaction. Reasonably accounting principles are same, right? Language is easily understandable, and of course we have that bit of a time zone difference, but I think that it is still manageable. So I see you becoming from a local chartered accountant to a global chartered accountant.
As someone who's been a member of various accountant communities, can you shed light on how the technological disruptions have impacted the day-to-day work routine of accountants? Because for accountants in the community itself, they've been used to words like auditing, filing, tedious, and then suddenly there's an influx of terms like blockchain, AI. So all of these, did this create an unrest in the community?
Unrest is probably a little wider term. I would say it created some sort of a confusion in terms of what their future is ahead. Because what we have seen with these newer technologies coming in, things are slowly moving away, because the entire concept of expertise today is not lying with one person. 15 years back, any accounting or a tax expert advice used to come only from this set of people. Today, I already have a different set of views already available in open domains, which I can probably read it. Most of the clients sometimes, when they reach out to us, they've already had a preconceived opinion which they have already done research on, right? And they know, sir, you have to just advise me whether it is A or B. So therefore, the way in which technology has probably brought these newer things has definitely impacted in the thought process. But equally important is, these are at the end of the day technologies. You need to know how to use them. Let's just take again another 20 years back when my father started off his practice. It was typically a, writing in hand, pen and paper, right? And that point of time, tallying a balance sheet was the biggest achievement. If I had made a trial balance accurate, that means my major job was done. Now, my dad used to always say on a jovial note, the naughtiest guy in the office was always given the bank reconciliation statement work, because he had to spend all his time and, sit and do all of those things, right? Yeah. But that was once upon a time. Today, reconciliation is automated. How? Because I have certain feeds. And a classical example today, most of them spend a lot of time doing GST reconciliation. Your GST 2B versus my purchase register has to be reconciled because of the various regulatory requirements. Otherwise, I do not know who's saying. Now, today, thanks to the way in which these things are built, reconciliation can be automated. So that means my focus using these technologies, or my way of working, style of working using these technologies is going to change.
Isn't it intriguing that we are talking about cloud adoption now, which seemed to be a prominent topic back in 2000s to 2010s. But now it seems like we are transitioning from digital transformation to the realm of intelligent technologies. How imperative has it become for CA students, interns, practicing CA professionals to upskill and reskill continuously?
The pace at which technology is progressing, probably if you say the last 50 years, maybe there would have been one revolution. If you compare the last 20 years, just dividing the history into, smaller buckets, maybe the 1900s to the 1950s, you would have found maybe one or two odd revolutions. 50s to 75. So you can see that cycle span of every technological revolution is drastically reducing. A student who joined a CA firm before the pandemic had commenced, was literally forced to work from home. If his office did not have that sort of a mindset, or did not have the tool set, skills people pick up, it's not a major challenge. Mindset and the tool set, if they were not able to do it, imagine 3 years that student has completed the articleship, because 2 years at least is gone in the pandemic, that then there would be some exam leaves and all of those. So what has he learned in that 3 or 4 years? Whether he's going to be relevant immediately after he finishes CA, that's a big question. So the biggest thing which is going to happen today, or which is going to happen in the next few days, whatever I'm learning, is it going to be relevant in the future? Or what am I learning? Can I make it to be more relevant in future? For example, I learned something on taxation or accounting and auditing. That principle is going to be the same way in the future. But the way in which I computed the tax, the way in which I did my accounting work is not going to be the same way in the future. Right? A simple analogy to cricket. We used to have a cover drive, we used to have this, sweep shot, all of those. Then came a buzz of helicopter shot. Right? And today we talk about every new player coming and innovating something. But the 4s or the 6s, earlier versus now, the way in which they are approaching is different. But the end result is the same. Which means it is very, very important that your fundamental knowledge of the domain, it could be account, tax, whatever is there, is very strong. Coupled with the understanding and adoption of technology. If you are able to adopt it well, I think you have a game ahead. Otherwise, I feel you will always be 1 or 2 steps behind the curve.
Now I think it's time we spoke about intelligent technologies. So I think it's time we talk about ChatGPT as well. So technology innovators are predicting that ChatGPT in the accounting and finance domain will have the capability to analyze complex GST taxes and also apply it according to business case scenarios. What is your take on it?
See, what these technologies do, they give you very good generic answers. They are generative AIs. Means what? You give a sort of a question based on experience, based on the data fed into the system, it gives you the answer.
Can we try it now and see it live how it works?
We can definitely give it a try. So you said, why don't we try it? I am just trying to open ChatGPT. I log in. The first question it says, or the very first screen, this is a free research preview. First question. Then it says, we have safeguards in place, but this is not intended to give your advice. Right? So would you trust a system which is not even designed for that? I think it's something which you have to look into. But nevertheless, let's go to that. Then he says about something on privacy which you should be aware of. How we collect data. Conversations may be reviewed by our AI trainers to improvise your system. So which means what you enter into this is going to be reviewed by them. So please be watchful of what you enter. Right? Because it's not just that, technology is fancy, we go adopt it. We also need to understand the risk of it. Please don't share any sensitive information in your conversations. Right? So would you now take your client's data and put it over here? I think that's a question mark. Right? This system is optimized for dialogue or for a particular response, probably a dialogue like ours. Right? Share your feedback and all that story. And I say, okay, fine, boss. Enough of all your things. Typically we say accept all. Right? Now it says various things. I'm going to ask it a very simple question. Can you help me create a proposal template? And I hit enter. It takes its own few seconds, populates something and gives me a very interesting thing. Introduction, problem statement, objective, methodology, scope of work, budget. So it gives me a very, very generic and broad answer. Right? Generic and broad answers will work only for a particular point in time.
Correct.
It is like saying every person who has cough and cold could probably have COVID symptoms, but that's not the case, right? Or every person who has a tax liability of more than 50 lakh rupees or income of more than 50 lakh rupees has to mandatorily pay surcharge or anything on those lines, right? But there are so many caveats within it. So what generative AI can do is solve common problems in a reasonably good way. Now you can give more and more context-driven questions. For example, you could say, I am an accountant. doing audit or doing an accounting work or doing audit work for a US based company, what are the US GAAP measures to be looked at? Now then your context is improvising. Now you can say, I am doing it for a company which is ABC revenue or ABC domain, which means it gives you better and better answer. And this is the art of prompting. And today, prompt writers are the biggest skills which AI engineers are looking for. Because what prompt is going to result in what, I do not know.
If I'm a CA student and I would like to take a look at how a basic agreement
That's a very good way of looking at it.
So maybe
Maybe you might get a sense. For example, you could say, what are the standard contents of a contract? But again, bear in mind, this is an engine which is predominantly driven based on data from the US. So it is quite probable that it might give you a perspective of US. Example, certain wordings used in US may be different compared to the UK law, Indian law. So therefore, it will give you a good feed, but do not blindly go based on it. And that's why I always say, ChatGPT is your free intern. Interns can solve a lot of problems, but they can create a lot of problems as well. So it's a question of how you sort of use them. So it is always better that you use them, accept it, refine it, and make it better. I'll give you a very interesting thing which we did in our office just a couple of days back. We were doing a IT audit for an organization where they had given some 10 or 15 controls and we had to audit it. And they said, these 10 or 15 controls, they had given me the evidences. Let's say reviewing ABC, and this is the evidence available. So what I did very interestingly, I took the first line, copied in ChatGPT. Second line, I said, these are the evidences I've reviewed, and this is my audit procedure. And then I said, can you do this similarly for the other 5 controls? It gave me the result. But it used the same word which was there in the previous column. So then I had to train it further, and therefore I got an output. Did it solve my problem? 90% yes. 10% manually somebody went and did it. So that's exactly where I actually come from. These technologies are evolving, innovation is coming up, but unless I know how to use it, it is very difficult. Now what did it help me? It helped me save 2 hours. 2-hour job, I was able to do it in probably 10-15 minutes and maybe 15 minutes of my review. That means 1.5 hours is mine, right? I have that extra 1.5 hours to probably take a new client, to do new work, or just chill out with my family. Which means we are now becoming more and more results driven. We are giving more and more advisory services rather than merely doing a compilation services. And that is where value is.
Narasimhan, this was really a thought-provoking session for me specifically. I think one takeaway that I got is, instead of perceiving AI, ML and cloud as something that's daunting or overhyped, I think we have to start upskilling and reskilling and somewhere, embrace technology and also make sure that we are in line with the advancements that are happening.
Absolutely.
And thank you so much. It was extremely thought-provoking.
Thank you so much.
And now it's time that we move to a fun segment where we will be asking you a lot of rapid-fire questions. So I think you know the drill. You might have seen it in other shows as well. So I'll ask you a series of questions and then I'd expect a rapid answers from you. And I am hoping to see how competitive you are in this particular segment.
Interesting. Please go ahead.
So are you
attending
ready?
a Viva after a long time.
Okay, so are you ready?
Yep, please.
All right. So let's start with the first question. One thing you love the most about what you get to do as a CA?
Solving problems which clients are not able to get an easy answer. I think we break our head into it. So I think that's quite interesting.
Amazing. And one thing you don't like the most about what you get to do as a CA?
Sometimes the job becomes monotonous. It's repetitive, especially after you've solved it and you've done it for a few times. Okay. It's repetitive.
Okay. Rank based on your favorites. Kumar Mangalam Birla, Rakesh Jhunjhunwala, Motilal Oswal, Naina Lal Kidwai.
Interesting. All of them are completely diverse.
Yes.
I would probably say Kumar Mangalam Birla.
Okay.
Jhunjhunwala would be second.
Okay.
And third Kidwai, and fourth is Motilal Oswal.
Okay, amazing. Can you explain on why you gave that first
So
person to
first is because Mr. Birla is, of course, all of them are chartered accountants, but he ran a business empire, which even though inherited from his parents and other things, so he was able to bring a business flavor coupled with finance flavor. And Rakesh Jhunjhunwala was such a very good analyst in terms of stock market. We call him as the Indian Warren Buffett equivalent, whatever, right? Unfortunately, he passed away, but nevertheless, he brought in a lot of sense to that stock market, and he was called as the big bull and all of those things. Kidwai was a diligent banker in that space, and of course, Motilal Oswal again in the stock market space. So both of them have done terrific.
Amazing. And one piece of advice that you got that stayed with you forever?
That's a very
deep question.
That's a very deep question. I'm just thinking we've got quite an interesting set of things. I think chances keep coming. So in case you have missed the first chance, it is still okay, but give your best the next time you get it.
Wow, okay, that was very optimistic.
Yeah.
And I thought the second question would be a little tough for you, where I asked you to rank the favorites, but I think right now this seems to be a little tougher. So let's go to the next question and see how you're able to answer that. So if you were to live a life of someone for one day, who would it be and why?
Just myself. I'm enjoying what God has given, and I'm absolutely happy and honored. I just don't want to be somebody else. I'm very happy with what I am.
All right. And what is the one advice that you would give to your younger self?
To my younger self, experiment. Because experimenting will keep your innovation at one side, and it will keep making you think, is there a better way to solve the problem? Unless we experiment, and nothing is going to happen. So experiment comes with a whole lot of questioning, doing the right thing, asking the set questions. I think that's the way in which we should go ahead.
Amazing. Considering this is your first time with rapid fire questions, you've done really well.
Thank you. And hopefully I've cleared my vibe.
Yes. All right. So it's time we move to our next segment, which is Have You Ever? So here I'll ask you a series of questions, which will start from Have You Ever Done This? For this segment, we have 3 placards. If you have to say yes, then you can use this thumbs up. And for a no, you can use a thumbs down. And if you would not like to answer a particular question, then you can use this smiley placard as well. Have you ever used the excuse of having a meeting to escape from a conversation with someone on a phone call?
Many a times.
Okay. Have you ever played a prank on one of your colleagues at work? Okay.
I make sure I do it at least once a week.
Do you mind sharing a little bit of what that prank was?
This was long back, with a couple of my colleagues. So he kept his system on and he just left. And I just took his mailbox and sent a mail to all the 3 or 4, 5 members of our team saying that I'm treating you, I owe all of you guys a lot, a full emotional mail of 2-3 lines, and I said I'm treating you at so-and-so place.
Have you ever come up with a humorous nickname for your boss or co-workers?
I think I've done many times.
Do you mind sharing what that is?
No, that is because it's on record.
Okay. Have you ever forgotten your script in the middle of your presentation before a larger audience?
I think I have forgotten sometimes.
Okay.
Forgotten sometimes, made up some gyan over there, but I've done that.
Okay. Last question. Have you ever gone for a presentation underprepared? Okay, here it is. We got a last answer as no. Okay, amazing. So yes, I think that was a wrap for our Have You Ever session and for the entire show. We loved having you here.
It was an absolute pleasure as well.
The insights that you gave on technology and the way you expressed it with examples, and that will be very relatable and easy to understand for the audience. I think it was really thought-provoking for us. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much.
We have a small present for you. Thank you so much, Narasimhan. I had a wonderful time with you.
It was a pleasure interacting. I really loved the time. Thank you.